Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is May 3rd, 2023, and lots of news for today. Starting that with after the announcement of the departure of Mateu Alemany in the summer, it looks like Jordi Cruyff could be next. Also, it's reported that Barcelona have received an 80 million euro offer for Raphinha. And finally, Lionel Messi is currently awaiting an offer from FC Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Again, guys, welcome to the live stream. These live streams are every Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also started doing the post-match live streams. There is no match this weekend, which I'm very sad about. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I don't know what I'm going to watch. I'm going to have to watch some reruns. But there will be a live stream next weekend for that match against Espanyol, which if we win in their stadium, then we will become champions of La Liga. Now, as I usually do these live streams, we'll do a segment of news. Then we'll head to the chat section to get a discussion going. This time, I'm going to have to limit a little bit the discussion, and the live stream might be a little bit longer than usual, but only because there's a lot of news to cover for today. It's been a crazy and hectic day in Barcelona with so much news coming out, and we got to get through all of it. I see there's 16 people of you in the chat. Welcome, all of you. There's only 5 likes, so let's make sure to hit that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe. And let's start with the news of Mateu Alemany. As I reported in yesterday's video, Barcelona have announced that the director of football, Mateu Alemany, will be leaving in the summer. June 30th will be his last day. But Barcelona did announce that Mateu Alemany will finalize all of Barcelona's outstanding business for the summer transfer market, which, as I enumerated in yesterday's video, it's a lot. You know, we have to offload 100 million euros worth of players. And when I say 100 million euros, I say 100 million euros of net profits, not total. So if you bought a player for, let's say, 50 million euros, you sell him for 60, that's only a net of 10 million euros. So we're talking about 100 million euros net of player sales. We're going to have to sell all of the loanees, all the players who are currently on loan. We're going to have to register the contracts of Gavi, Marcos Alonso, Sergio Roberto, Ronald Araujo. Going to have to negotiate with people like Jordi Alba, Ter Stegen, Frankie de Jong, and Sergio Busquets for the salary reductions. We have to renew the contracts of Balde and Dembele. And then we have to make reinforcements for the squad, including the signing of Messi and Gundogan. A lot to do for the club in the summer. Hopefully, Mateu Alemany is able to do all of that before he leaves. It's definitely going to be a huge loss for the club because Mateu Alemany has been the main architect of this whole Barcelona reconstruction project. He's been able to pull absolute miracles when it came to the past transfer markets where Barcelona were told over and over again that they weren't going to be able to sign anyone. Yet they signed players in the winter, they signed players in the summer, and not any players, some of the best players in the world like Lewandowski, like Jules Koundé, Andreas Christensen. A lot of miracles that Mateu Alemany has been able to pull with the very limited funds and salary cap that Barcelona had. So it's definitely going to be a big loss for the club. But what I'm here to report to you is that we now know a little bit more about the reasons why Mateu Alemany has decided to resign his post, even though he has a contract until the summer of 2024. And it seems that there was some disagreements between him and the board of directors about the direction of the club. Now, the relationship between him and Joan Laporta is still a very good relationship. The disagreements between them were normal disagreements that every club have. But eventually there were so many of them that they compounded. And then when you couple that with the fact that Mateu Alemany received a very extremely lucrative offer from Aston Villa, he finally decided that, look, maybe the best course for me would be to leave. But again, he is leaving on good terms. There were no fights or anything like that. He still has a good relationship with Laporta. He's leaving on good terms. He just eventually got tired of all these disagreements that between him and the board of directors. And of course, the biggest proof that he is leaving on good terms is that he has committed himself to finalizing the business of Barcelona in the summer, which again, it's a lot of things to do. If the relationship wasn't good, he would have been just like, all right, bye. but he's not. Now, what are these disagreements? Well, the disagreements were about the future of the project. It seems that Mateu Alemany wanted to build a project around young players, like Pedri, Gavi, Alejandro Balde, Ronald Araujo. He wanted to focus on registering and renewing the contracts of all these players so they can be the base of the team. And then from there, continue building with more and more young talent so we can have a great squad for many, many years to come. But unfortunately, somewhere along the road, his plan or his vision for the team of having a young team made up of youngsters started to deviate from the course, because Jan Laporta is not the kind of guy who likes to sit back and just let everybody else, do their jobs. He likes to be present in every role. He likes to be, involved in everything. And the involvement of Jan Laporta and his board of directors, unfortunately, turned the direction of the project which Alemany had envisioned for the club, starting with the contract renewals of Ousmane Dembélé, which Mateu Alemany was very much against, but yet the club ended up renewing him. I was one of the people who was also very much against the contract renewal of Dembélé, because for the past 5 years, he had mostly been, partying, staying up late, constantly injured, making millions and millions of euros and not contributing anything on the field. He also made fun of the club a lot. He told us he wanted to renew in the winter transfer market. Then he ended up leaving in Europe, going on tour, trying to figure out which club wanted to offer him more money. And he came back. Then he said he was going to renew again at the end of the season when his contract was expiring. He didn't renew again. He went on tour in Europe, trying to see what clubs wanted to offer him more and more money. Eventually, no clubs were willing to offer him the money he wanted. So he came back with his tail between his legs, and Barcelona ended up renewing him. And Mateu Alemany was very much against this renewal, and he was not happy that Barcelona went ahead and renewed the French attacker. Now, thankfully, somehow Xavi has been able to extract the best out of Dembélé, and he's had a phenomenal season, even though he did spend 3 months injured. But nonetheless, I think the Dembélé we have now is completely different from the Dembélé in the past 5 seasons. But that was not the only disagreement between Alemany and the board. There was also the contract renewals of Sergio Roberto and Sergio Busquets. Alemany was very much against these contract renewals because, again, he wants to focus on the young players. He wants to build a young squad, and to renew Busquets, Sergio Roberto, and even considering renewing Jordi Alba, Mateu Alemany was very much against that. And there's also the return of Lionel Messi. Now, when Lionel Messi had to leave, the message or the person who was in charge of telling Lionel Messi that Barcelona were not going to be able to register him was Mateu Alemany himself. So as a result of that, his relationship between Alemany and Messi was eroded. They didn't end up on good terms. So the fact that Barcelona wanted to bring Lionel Messi, that also affected Mateu Alemany, and he finally decided that it was time to go. There have been too many disagreements between him and the club, and he didn't like where the direction of the club was headed. Now, let's do 3 quick comments because, again, I'm only going to limit it to 3 quick comments between each discussion because there's so much to cover, and we're going to talk about next. And now it looks like not only could Alemany be leaving, but it looks like Jordi Cruyff could also be next, which would be a huge, huge blow for the club. Okay, let's see. Lincoln says 80 mil for Raphinha. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Oh, my Betty Guerra, that's my mom, by the way. She's waving, so everybody say hello to my mama. Ross says, San Diego, California here. Do you think Barcelona will get out of the financial situation they are in? And if yes, when? A year, 2, or 3? I think so. Eventually they will, but I think it will take several years, but I think they will eventually. Damien says they say that Deco is a possible candidate. I will talk about that next. So let's go back to the news. Again, lots of news to cover, so I'm only going to be doing 3 comments between each news segment. And the next news is that it looks like Jordi Cruyff could be the next person to leave the club. Now, Barcelona were considering Antonio Cordon as a replacement for Mateu Alemany. This is something that the club had considered several weeks ago. They must have known that Alemany was considering leaving. Antonio Cordon was the football director of Real Betis. He did a really good job with them, and then he quit a few months ago, so he is available. So Barcelona had reached out to his entourage to see if he'd be interested in the job, and the plan of Laporta was to bring in Antonio Cordon, promote Jordi Cruyff to a higher position, and then have the two of them kind of run the sporting project. But it's reported that Barcelona have not reached out to Cordon again ever since they announced that Alemany will be leaving. And the reason why is because Jordi Cruyff is considering leaving the club. So since he is considering that, of course, completely torpedoes the plan of bringing Antonio Cordon from Real Betis and having him work with Jordi Cruyff. And the reason why Jordi Cruyff is considering leaving is because now with the imminent departure of Mateu Alemany, Jordi Cruyff was Alemany's right-hand man. So now with Alemany gone, Jordi Cruyff is not too sure about his role, like what's going to be his role in the club now that the main guy that he worked with will be leaving. Jordi Cruyff has also had several of the disagreements with the board of directors that Mateu Alemany had with the whole vision of the club and where the team is headed. And of course, Jordi Cruyff also is not the kind of person who likes to stick around at clubs for too many years. He's the kind of guy who likes to work with clubs on very short-term basis. So all that together, it seems like that it could end up convincing Jordi Cruyff to leave Barcelona in the summer, which again would be a huge, huge disappointment for Barcelona. But Joan Laporta does want Jordi Cruyff to stay. He considers him very important for the whole project, and he's going to try his best to try to convince Cruyff to stay, because if both Cruyff and Alemany leave, again, there'd be a huge blow to the whole reconstruction project. Now, I must say that for the first time since Joan Laporta was elected, I am not feeling too positive about, or maybe not that I'm not feeling positive. I think I feel a little bit out of place, a little bit confused about what's going on. I wanted Joan Laporta to win the elections when he was a candidate. When he won, I was very happy. And ever since he's won, I've supported him. I think he's done a great job managing the club. But now with the whole Alemany leaving, with maybe Jordi Cruyff leaving, with the whole direction of the project turning a different way, for the first time, I am having my doubts. But I still support Laporta, and I hope that he will be able to continue steering the club in the right way. Now, another reason why Jordi Cruyff is considering leaving and is that Deco is being considered as the possible replacement of Mateu Alemany. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but let's head back to the chat. We'll do, again, 3 comments real quick, and then we'll keep it going because a lot of news coming out of Barcelona today. Okay, let's see. Where did we leave off? Caleb says, who would you like as left wing for Barca? I think left wing. That's a good question. Let me think. I think we should go back to the 4-4-2 formation and not have a left wing, and instead just 2 forwards with Lewandowski and possibly Dembele on the right, being substituted by Lamine Yamal. But that's just my opinion. Okay, Frederick, Arthur, and Damien are both saying hello to my mom. Hello, Mama. I hope you're still watching. Anyways, let's get back, because we now know that Deco is the person who's best situated to be the possible replacement for Mateu Alemany. For those of you who don't know who Deco is, he's a Barcelona legend. He was part of that Barcelona team under Rijkaard. He was a phenomenal midfielder, one of the best of that era. He is Brazilian, but does have Portuguese passport. He did work with the club. He, as far as the Brazilian market, he was kind of a consultant for the club. But since he did represent like Raphinha, who's a Barcelona player, he eventually decided to stop working for the club and instead became kind of like more of an exterior advisor who wasn't really earning anything from the club, just so that there's no conflict of interest. But Deco, he's a football agent. He a Barcelona legend and former player. He has really good control on the Brazilian market. He was instrumental in bringing Raphinha from Leeds United. And he's also been very involved with the whole Vitor Roque operation. Now, it seems that he is the best situated to replace Mateu Alemany. There's talks about Deco will be traveling to Barcelona in the upcoming hours in order to sit down with the club to see if he would be willing to take on his position. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because Deco has never been a director of football. So I can't say there's anything to judge about in history. But one thing is, we do know that Deco coming to the club could be another reason for Jordi Cruyff to decide to leave. And the reason why is because Jordi Cruyff is starting to see a pattern where, first of all, Jorge Mendes, who is very close to Joan Laporta, is starting to gain more and more power inside the club. He's starting to represent more and more players. He represents Balde, he represents Ansu Fati, he represents Lamine Yamal, and he's constantly trying to bring players to the club or take them out of the club. Very close to Laporta. Deco is very good friends with Laporta, very good friends with Messi. If Messi comes back, and they're talking about Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba staying. So he's kind of seeing this clique, this old clique from before, starting to form yet again. And when you add all of that to the fact, like I said, Alemany just left. He was the main guy. All the disagreements that he's had with the board about direction of the project, all of that is piling up. And Jordi Cruyff could be seriously considering leaving this summer. But again, Joan Laporta does want him to stay. Now, let's head back to the chat section again, and we'll talk about Raphinha. It's a good segue because, again, Deco did represent Raphinha, and he was instrumental in bringing him. And now we know that we have an 80 million euro offer for Raphinha. So we'll talk about that, but let's head back to the chat section. Again, I see 43 people watching, but only 19 likes. Let's make sure all of us hit that like button, guys, and make it 43 watching and 43 likes. It really helps this channel. But let's do 3 quick comments, and then we'll head back to the news because, again, there's a lot to cover today. Crazy day in the city of Barcelona. Frederick says, do you think Alemany is leaving for money? So I just covered why Alemany is leaving. In case you missed it, just make sure to watch the stream when it ends. I don't want to be repetitive. Mark says, I kind of wanted the guy who was at Monaco when they made it to the semis or wherever they went. Not sure which guy you're talking about, but if you can, link his name, maybe we could discuss it. And then Lincoln says, I fully understand why he wants to leave, but he should stay. Yes, I should agree. I should think Jordi Cruyff should stay because, again, he was instrumental along with Alemany in everything that the club has achieved. And just to take it to perspective, what Alemany has been able to achieve, to be the director of football of a major club with lots of money, that's the easiest job ever. Because first of all, as being a big club, you're expected to make big signings. And when you have the money, it's easy. You can just point at players. I want this guy. I want this guy. I want this guy. You get the checkbook. You can sign whoever you want. To be the director of football of a small club with a limited budget, that's also not that hard because as a small club, you're not expected to make any big signings. So, you can make the signings that the club can afford. But now to be the director of football of a big club where the expectations are high, where they're expecting you to sign big players, but not having the money to do it, that's when it gets really complicated because now you have to sign these big players, but you don't have the money for it. So that's when you get really creative. You have to get really creative. You have to get really good at negotiations. And that's exactly what Alemany did. They told us we weren't going to be able to sign anybody, but we signed players like Lewandowski, like Koundé, like Christensen. And what he has done has been absolutely short of a miracle. So big blow for Alemany leaving. Bigger blow even if Cruyff leaves. Hopefully he does stay. Now let's talk about Raphinha because it's reported that Newcastle have made Barcelona a verbal offer worth 80 million euros. Now I talked about this before in a previous video that Newcastle were interested in Raphinha. They were eyeing him. Newcastle just got acquired by a Saudi investment fund. They have officially become the richest club in the world. They have flexed their financial muscle this past winter transfer market, spending more than any other European clubs in the market. They want to build a competitive squad. They want to buy up all the players that they can to make that competitive squad. They're actually doing pretty well. I think they're sitting 3rd in the Premier League or 4th. They're doing well this season, but they want to build a team that can win Champions League, and they're kind of following along the footsteps of PSG, where they're looking to spend crazy amounts of money on players. And Raphinha was one of those players that they were considering, and now they have made an offer worth 80 million euros. Now, Barcelona have to sell 2 big names come this summer if they want to be able to sign players and have their feasibility plan approved. So Raphinha could be one of those, but Xavi, of course, doesn't want to sell Raphinha. He wants to count on him. Raphinha's entourage, after this news came out, made it very clear that the player doesn't want to leave anywhere. He wants to stay in Barcelona. He's happy in Barcelona. And if Raphinha were to leave, what they're saying on the down low is he would not be leaving to Newcastle. It would more to be a club of his choosing, maybe like a bigger club. I get it. Why would you want to go from Barcelona to Newcastle? If you're going to leave Barcelona, it's going to be to another big team. I don't think Raphinha has the level to play in any big team, including Barcelona, but that's another discussion for a different day. Now, I think just because Raphinha doesn't want to leave, I don't think this is the end of the discussion. I think if this offer remains on the table, I think Barcelona will look to pressure Raphinha to leave, because 80 million euros is a lot of money, and Barcelona needs that money desperately for the summer so they can be able to sign more players. And 80 million euros, not only would it cover the amortization of Raphinha, but Barcelona would also look to cash in around maybe 30 million euros. So that's still that's 30 million euros net towards the 100 million euros that Barcelona need to sell. Now, let's get back to the comment section. Again, we'll do just 3 because there's a lot of news to cover, and we'll talk about Lionel Messi next and the whole fiasco that's going on with PSG. Okay, Caleb says, do you think we should sell Raphinha? And if yes, what should we do with the money? Yes, I do think we should sell Raphinha for 2 reasons. First of all, he hasn't been performing. Yes, he's had a few great matches. I've said it when he did, but he hasn't been able to keep up that performance throughout the season. So yes, I think we should sell him, and especially for that much money. Because if they're offering you 80 million euros for a player who is not necessarily your best player, or is not necessarily performing well, or doesn't even have Barca level, then yes, absolutely. We need the money, sell him. Mark says, Antonio Cordon. Oh yeah, I already mentioned Antonio Cordon. I didn't know he was at Monaco. He was at Real Betis last. He quit a few months ago. Barcelona were considering him, but as I said a few minutes ago, the reason why they haven't reached out to him, because the plan was to hire him and elevate Jordi Cruyff and have them work together. But since Jordi Cruyff is considered leaving, then that puts the whole plan of bringing Antonio Cordon to the club in jeopardy. Okay, Pancho says, hopefully La Liga can approve the plan this week. Doubt Messi will want to wait till the end of the month. Messi will definitely wait for as long as we make him wait because of the following news. So that's a good segue. Lionel Messi and the whole circus that's going on in Paris. So Messi has been officially suspended for 2 weeks by PSG, which means his season is over. The reason he was suspended is because he is an ambassador for Saudi Arabia, a tourism ambassador, where he gets paid by Saudi Arabia so Messi can promote tourism to that country. And part of that whole role is for Messi to travel to Saudi Arabia. Now, Messi had a planned trip for this past Monday, and he had requested permission from PSG to travel to Monday, and PSG granted him the permission. But I guess that permission was contingent on either PSG winning or drawing their match against Lorient this past weekend, which, as if you follow Ligue 1, you know that PSG actually lost. They were humiliated by Lorient. They lost 1-3. So since they did lose, PSG decided to make a training on that Monday, because initially the players would have had off that day had they won or drawn. But since they lost, PSG decided to call back up the players for training that Monday, and Lionel Messi still traveled to Saudi. So as a result of that trip and not showing up to training, PSG have decided to suspend him for 2 weeks, which means that his season is basically over. Now, the fans of PSG were seen today, huge numbers of fans outside the PSG offices chanting as loud as possible over and over again, Messi, you son of a B, and complete disrespect to Messi, which goes to show what the circus that PSG has become. Absolute crap show. They want to renew Lionel Messi, but then they go ahead and suspend him 2 weeks. I mean, are you really going to achieve your goal by doing that? I get you want to impose discipline, but 2 weeks to me seems a little bit excessive. Now, Messi has traveled to Barcelona, and he will be spending the next 2 weeks in Barcelona, reportedly awaiting an offer from the club. Now, as the days go by, Messi is becoming more and more desperate to come back to Barcelona. He never wanted to go to PSG. When he was at PSG, he was never happy. Not only because, Barcelona is his home and FC Barcelona is the club that he grew up in, but PSG, as a project, is an absolute disastrous of a project. It's not just Messi's fault. PSG have been disastrous for the entire of their history. They're a laughing stock. It's an absolute circus. But they want to blame Messi, but Messi's only been there for 2 seasons. But yet they've been a crap show for decades. So I don't get the logic behind it. Also, Messi did not like how PSG's fans are always whistling at him, insulting him in stadiums when they lose, even though they do have, Mbappe, they have other players there, but they always blame him. So Messi's never been happy at PSG. And as the days go by, especially now with the 2-week suspension, he's getting more and more desperate to come back. Messi's family have decided to reach out to the club and try to bury the hatchet. And they are looking for Barcelona to rescue Messi from the circus that it is PSG. So I think Messi will wait for Barcelona for as long as we make him wait, because again, he's desperate to come back. There are no offers from any other European clubs. So it's either Barcelona or going to a retirement league like Saudi or La Liga, or the MLS. And Messi doesn't want that. He wants to remain in European football at least until the next Copa America, because he wants to be fit for that cup and he wants to try to win it with Argentina for the second time in a row. So let's get back to the comment section or the chat. We'll do 3. And again, there's a lot more news to cover, believe it or not. I know we're at 26 minutes, but a lot of news today, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But anyways, let's see. Frederick says, can Barca afford both Messi and Neymar now that PSG fans are chanting them out too? No, for actually 3 reasons why Neymar would not come. First of all, PSG would never sell Neymar to Barcelona for a low price. They're going to demand a premium from us. Maybe they would consider it for other clubs, but never to Barcelona. So Barcelona cannot afford the transfer fee of Neymar. Now, even if PSG decides to, yes, we will sell it to you for a cheap price, Barcelona cannot afford Neymar's salary. Neymar is making 40 million euros at PSG, and unlike Messi, who would be willing to reduce his salary, I don't see Neymar accepting a pay cut. And even if he does, it's not going to be that big to where Barcelona can afford it. So Barcelona not only cannot afford the transfer fee, they also cannot afford his salary. And finally, even if they could afford both, Barcelona do not want Neymar back on the squad, because I think Neymar, like PSG, has also become a clown. It's unfortunate. He could have been one of the best players in the history, but unfortunately, I don't think he's hungry anymore. I don't think his heart in it anymore. I think he cares more about his personality as a celebrity rather than as a football player. So Barcelona don't want to be any part of that. So now Neymar will not be coming back. All right. So, Adedoyin, I hope I said that correctly, says PSG are just angry that Messi won't renew with them. PSG are angry because they spent all that money, I think over €1 billion on their squad, and they can't win anything besides the Farmers League on. All right, Mark says, how true is it when they say Messi will take any amount of money, and if it's true, why pay him 30 mil if he will take something like 5 mil or less? So, it is some truth to that. It's been coming. That news has been coming from reporters in Argentina who are very close to the entourage of Messi, and they're the ones who first broke the story that Messi wanted to come back. So at this point, there's no reason to doubt them, but it's not 100% confirmed that he would take, any salary. But why would the club want to offer him a little bit more? Because again, if Messi comes, he would generate up to 1/3 of Barcelona's revenues. So we're talking about 300-400 million euros. So I think, why not reward a player with a little bit more money if he's going to bring, instead of 5 million, you can pay him 10. That's another 5 when he's bringing you 300-400 million, that's probably why. But again, none of this is have been confirmed. We still don't know the official stance of Messi, but reporters close to him are saying that. All right, one more comment, and then we'll get back to talking about Sergio Busquets. Hadith says, I told you I smell something wrong in Barcelona financial situation. Not sure what you mean. Okay. Let's see. Sergio Busquets, to renew or not to renew? That is the question. So, Busquets, as we know, his contract is up at the end of the season. Xabi wants him to renew for at least one more season so he can train his replacement and continue to be that leader in the locker room and on the field. And for the longest time, we've been waiting for Busquets. Yes, I want to renew. No, I don't want to renew. I want to go to the MLS. No, I want to stay. Well, it seems that Busquets have now made it official that he has made up his mind and that he will tell Xabi what has he decided next week. So we now know that Busquets for sure knows what he wants to do, and we will know what that answer is next week. Some people are saying that he has decided to stay. Some people are saying that he has decided to leave. We don't know, but what we do know is that he has finally made up his mind. He will tell Xabi next week. So next week, we will find out whether he's going to be staying or he's going to be leaving. Now, for a few weeks, they've been saying that if Messi does come to Barcelona, that Busquets would stay. He would, of course, accept a huge salary cut to stay. Jordi Alba also wants to play with Messi, and he would also accept a big salary cut to stay with Messi. And if not, there's now talks about all of them leaving together to Saudi. Apparently, the entourage of Busquets has confirmed that they're not going to the MLS. I don't know what happened because for the longest time, it seemed that Busquets will be going to Inter Miami. It was reported that he had been looking at homes where to live in Miami. He had looked at schools where he could register his kids. Seems something went wrong, and Busquets no longer wants to go to the MLS. And Saudi, it's what's being talked about. Again, nothing confirmed, but I would hate to see, Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba, Suarez, all of them end up in Saudi. I think the MLS would be a much, much, much better destination than going to Saudi. But that's just my opinion. All right. Let's get back to the comment section again. We'll do 3, and then we'll finally hit the last news, and it's about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Okay, Valerian Pereira says, what about Vitor Roque? That's completely on hold. Barcelona had decided to travel to Brazil, then they said no because they are considering other options. So that operation is on hold. Unfortunately, sources out of Brazil are saying that the player is kind of running out of patience and getting tired of waiting for Barcelona. So it's not looking good because if Barcelona do not make up their mind soon, then Vitor Roque could end up signing for someone else. And his options are unlimited because every club in Europe wants that guy. Okay. Nasser says, Alemany leaving the club again on wrong direction. Jordi Cruyff will follow. And I hope the people who replace him can do the job, but I doubt it. Very sad for Barca. It is definitely sad. Huge blow. But I'm sure, at least I trust that Laporta will find adequate replacements. Let's see. Michael says, if Newcastle are so interested in Raphinha, Barca should ask for 90 to 100 mil. Yeah, possibly. I mean, Newcastle do have plenty of money and they could spend it. But again, it would have to depend on how much Barca can convince Raphinha to leave because he really, really wants to stay. Hadith says, in the moment, a few people know about the Barcelona real numbers, Laporta, Alemany, and Jordi Cruyff, and seems they bear not in that opinion. I don't understand your comment, but I think what you're trying to imply is that there's something going on economically, and that's why Alemany and Jordi Cruyff want to leave. If that's what you're trying to imply, that's incorrect. Again, I addressed why Alemany is leaving and why Jordi Cruyff wants to leave at the beginning of the stream. So if you missed it, just make sure to watch it when it ends. I don't want to just go over it all over again and make the stream longer than it needs to be. Now, let's touch on the last subject, and it's about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang because even though Chelsea had decided that they're not going to let Aubameyang leave for free, they have now made a 180-degree turn and decided that, yes, they will let Aubameyang leave free in the summer. It looks like Aubameyang has been able to exert some pressure on them and convince them to let him go for free since he doesn't really, no coaches count on him, and he hasn't played much this season. So Aubameyang could leave free in the summer. Now, how is that relevant to Barcelona? It's relevant because, as I had said in the previous video, Barcelona were considering Aubameyang as an option B if they couldn't sign any other replacement or any other substitute for Lewandowski, but only if Aubameyang would leave for free and if he accepts a salary reduction. Now, Aubameyang is dying to come back, so he's willing to accept whatever salary Barcelona give him. He's willing to accept whatever role they're willing to offer him, and he's willing to accept whatever minutes Barcelona want to throw his way. So that part was never a problem. The problem was whether Chelsea was going to let him leave for free or not. And it looks like now they are willing. So both requirements that Barcelona had made have been met. So if Barcelona want to sign him, they'd be able to, because he'd be leaving for free and he'd be accepting a huge salary reduction. But again, he was always a plan B in case Barcelona could not sign any other substitute for Lewandowski. But now there's talks that Barcelona could be considering him as a serious option. That really pisses me off. And it's another thing that I don't understand about what the hell is Joan Laporta doing. You know, we were talking about signing Vitor Roque, an 18-year-old prospect who has a long, long future ahead of him. And now we have shifted to Aubameyang, who's 34 years old. So you want to bring a 34-year-old to be the substitute of another 34-year-old? Makes zero sense to me. Talk about wanting a center back, left-footed center back. You bring a 32-year-old center back who's had plenty of injuries. We were talking about bringing Amrabat or even Subimendi, who is 20, who's I think 20 or 21. And now we're talking about just renewing Busquets and not bringing anyone. Busquets was 34 years old. We're talking about bringing Lionel Messi back. We renewed Sergio Roberto. We're talking about maybe renewing Jordi Alba. I seriously don't understand what the hell's going on. I get now why Alemany wanted to leave or wants to leave, because the whole idea was rebuilding the team with young talent, with young blood. And now we're talking about bringing more and more and more Asian players, which takes us back to what, 2 seasons ago when the whole team was an Asian squad, and it's just not looking good. I think Aubameyang was great player when he was here. Thanks to him, we made it to the Champions League, but I think it should stay there. We have no business signing Aubameyang back. He's 34 years old. Why do you want 2 34-year-old center forwards? What's going to happen in a year or two when they're both done? Who's going to play in that position? Makes no sense. Anyways, that was all the news for today. I think we'll have like 3 or 4 more minutes. We'll do the chat section, and then we'll wrap it up. Lots of news. I can't believe we were able to get through it, but we got through all of it. Okay, where did we leave off? Lincoln says, guys, please leave the likes and views ain't adding up. I agree. 71 views, only 33 likes. That's less than half. Let's make it equal, guys. Come on. We can do it. But this says, I think Deco will be a good option for the supporting director role. Could be, yeah. Again, he's been an Asian for many years. He has a really good grip on a Brazilian market. He's represented, some pretty big names like Raphinha. So there is a possibility that he could be a good sporting director. He's never been one, so I can't say, it's going to be great or it's going to be terrible. There's nothing to judge about. But again, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So hopefully he does, it'd be good for the club. All right. Lincoln says, do you think pressure from Xabi is leading to this madness? Part of it, yes, because Xabi does like to be involved in the decisions, and Alemany and Cruyff is more of they kind of had their own vision. They wanted to make their own decisions, but with all the butting in from Laporta, from his board of directors, from Xabi, kind of what drove Alemany away, and looks like could drive Jordi Cruyff away. Nasser says, I was saying club is going in the wrong direction, but you said Laporta takes care of it. Laporta is wrong direction. Laporta is not wrong direction, because it's thanks to Laporta that Barcelona still exists. If it wasn't for Laporta, the club would have been in bankruptcy. So no, Laporta is not wrong direction. Michael says, Aubameyang form lately is not good, so to bring him is a big L. Yeah, of course. He is 34 years old. His form is not going to get better. He's going to keep getting worse, because that's just the nature of aging, and he hasn't played a whole season, so I don't know how much better he could, I don't know how he's gonna just come back and resume. When players even miss 2-3 weeks from injury, it takes some time for them to get back into rhythm. So imagine missing a whole year. It's gonna take a lot for him to get back into rhythm, and then when you're 34 years old, it even takes you longer to get back into rhythm. So why is it gonna take him a whole season just to get back into rhythm? And plus, regardless, even if he can come back and get back right into rhythm, he's 34 years old. He's going to be done in a year or two. Right along Lewandowski, then what are we going to do? Have 2 center forwards who are retiring? I don't know. And then finally, there's been a lot of changes of coaches in Chelsea, and yet none of them have played Aubameyang, which makes you doubt there has to be something wrong. Because if it was just one coach, then you could say, okay, maybe they don't get along, maybe they have a bad relationship, maybe he's not the right profile for that coach. But then when another coach comes and another coach comes and another coach comes and none of them are playing him, there's no way that he has a bad relationship with all of them. There has to be something wrong with the player. It's kind of like the guy who keeps getting fired from his jobs and he just keeps blaming his boss. And, maybe you believe it the first time, maybe the second, but eventually you're like, okay, you've been fired from every job you've gotten. So obviously the problem is you, not your boss. Okay. Pate says, I think Xabi is the problem because he is the one trying to make Barca Spanish. Oh my God, here we go again. I addressed this comment before. No, he's not trying to make a Spanish FC. That's a very, 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 very stupid thing to say. More than half of the starting team are foreign. They're not Spanish. And I mean, are there Spanish players on the team? Of course there are Spanish players on the team. It's a Spanish fucking team. What do you expect? So no, sorry to lose it a little bit, but I've addressed this before. Please stop saying this stupid thing over and over again. Anyways, Caleb says Subimendi should be a priority. Unfortunately, Real Sociedad wants 60 million euros for Subimendi. We can't afford that. They're not willing to go down on the price. And so also Subimendi doesn't want to play for any other team in La Liga because he is, through and through Real Sociedad fan. He came up through their academy. So if he leaves, he's going to end up leaving to another league. There's talks about him leaving to Arsenal. So Subimendi is definitely not happening. Anyways, that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments in the chat section. I know this was a long stream. There was a lot of news to cover, but thank you for watching it. Thank you for those who will be watching it when it ends. I will see you in tomorrow's video. And as always, Visca Barça.